Hey guys, John Loxley here, back with, well, just back in general, I suppose. I wanted this to be more of like a writing style workshop, if that makes any sense, because I didn't think I was going to ever do anything with this game again for the channel, but then I decided to go back through and kind of look at some of the other dialogue, some of the other choices, see if they actually did change anything in the game. That they don't, not really. Like one line is different basically towards the end, and really kind of get you guys to think a little bit. Not all you guys. This is mostly designed for anyone, well, anyone curious, I suppose, in general, but also potentially the devs, potentially anyone that wants to do any design or writing or anything in the future, because I feel like this is actually a fairly... This game checks all the boxes for me except for the story, and it screws that up so badly that it flips it from like to dislike for me, and so I actively dislike it. And if I could fix that, this would probably be one of my favorites. So now, I'm not a writer, so it's hard for me to give actually advice, any kind of advice about writing in general. But I can read, similar to I can eat food, and I'm not a chef. And so what I can do is tell people what I don't like. And I'm anal retentive and analytical enough that I think I could make a pretty compelling argument or set of reasons for at least what I'm thinking and why I didn't specifically like something. So why that's important is a game like this, especially since this is basically almost a solo project. This person is not just the writer, although there were, 5 or 6 writers total. This person is basically the director, like for a movie. It is their goal, their job, their mission, whatever, to get you, the viewer, player, consumer, whatever. The goal is to get you to feel a specific way or get you in a certain mind frame. Directors do this with films all the time. They have to consider, actors, they have to consider the casting, they have to consider the frame shot, the composition, the lighting, the color temperature, the music, the dialogue, the pacing, everything. All of these hundreds of things that you don't think about, they are the ones that have to consider it in order to get you, the recipient, as close to their vision as possible. They want you to experience this in the way that they intended. Anything else is a failure. That's why it's so important. So we're going to go through this and you're going to be like, oh my God, you're overanalyzing this stuff. And it's like, no. They have to think about this stuff, because if it's misinterpreted, then they've effectively failed. So we're going to just go through up until the point where basically we get control, because I think that alone is enough. And I like to talk, so this video is probably going to be fairly long already. But just that, I think, is a good basis for what sort of things you can expect, what sort of questions you should be asking, how to effectively communicate your vision to the player, right? And if you guys like this, let me know. I would like to do this for more stuff, but I don't play a lot of bad games. Not that this is necessarily a bad game, even though it's probably, colloquially, I've said it's one of the worst games I've ever played, but that's just my personal feeling. Just the intensity of the dislike, just because it crapped the bed on the story. Everything was so good, and then the story just like Amber Hearded all over the place. And you know what I mean? So it's not bad in itself. It's just, it was so close to being great. And it fumbled the last second. That's why I have such strong feelings about it. But, so before we do any of that, like I said, I don't play a lot of bad games. If you do come across some and you want me to analyze them or whatever, let me know if you want me to do more of this, because there are a couple more parts. Also let me know if you're interested in writing. I'd probably recommend this just to see. You don't have to agree with me, by the way. I am one person, and apparently I'm, in the minority. There's a 90% positive rating on Steam, so I'm less than 10%, but that's 10% of people that don't recommend the game. And I think that the percentage that do recommend it should be higher, honestly. All right, so first, the importance of writing and the importance of story. Okay, so I don't know which to do first, to be honest. I guess let's do writing. No, let's do story. Okay. Story is super important in games, whether you think it is or not. The hallmark of a game, specifically one with lasting appeal, is emotional impact. Okay. Games, like other forms of media, movies, books, TV, music, it's all about the emotional impact that the consumer, if you will, that person feels. Mobile games are fine. They're time wasters. They'll get you through a bathroom break or a trip on the elevator or whatever. But you're not going to remember them 20 years down the line. You take something like Final Fantasy VII, which still, the original, people still remember fondly, and you can still play and fall in love with today. And that's not because of the graphics. Though they were cutting edge at the time, they have not aged well at all. They've aged poorly. They look like Lego people with low polygons, But what attracts people is the story. And that's what's key. That's what gets your game remembered for years, decades even. Now, writing is equally as important. Although in the case of FF7, if you do go back and play it, you'll see what I mean. It's not about the writing for that game. Writing is just a means of conveying the story, but when you have something that has multiple mediums, like visual and music and other stuff, I guess, these all combine to convey the story. Manny's right here. Which way are you gonna go? There it goes. There's the face. And if you go back and replay Final Fantasy VII, it is poorly translated. There's spelling errors, there's typos, localization issues. A lot of the dialogue is unclear, or just it doesn't make a lot of sense. But overall, the story is conveyed. In a game like this, in Other Waters, a game that is somewhere between a visual novel and a text adventure, writing becomes vastly more important. Way more important, because that's basically the only medium that will convey the story. And when the writing sucks, it hurts. For me, it killed the game. That's why it's important. So let's oh, I can click. I was reaching for the gamepad. I'm like, no, I can click. So this is where I finished the playthrough for the channel. I've recently gone back and gone through again to see what changes there were, and I went and I got all the research and stuff, because I was gonna try and go through that. And then I started and I was like, no, No, I read like a couple of the little entries about the different animals, and I'm like, let's not. Strangely enough, though, playing through again, while I like certain things better, like especially the music and the sound design, I think is better than maybe I gave it credit for. I was definitely right about the quality of the writing and the story. And the more I think about it, the more I realize they maybe completely dropped the ball. Maybe they had plans that just didn't pan out. I don't know, but let's go through. I'm going to delete this one because I don't want 3 save files for whatever reason. We're going to watch the intro and then we'll talk about it. So we have our loading screen basically with the nice little logo. Fellow Traveler presents. By the way, as we go through this, I want you guys to actually think about the emotions that it's trying to convey. Not just the emotions, but if you've played the game, think about what we know versus what the actual story is. And if you haven't played the game, think about what they're trying to convey information-wise, in addition to emotion-wise. Yeah, Amos Roddy, fantastic job, by the way. And honestly, this opening is great as well. It's if it mattered to the story, it would be fantastic. But unfortunately, it's kind of like, it's still beautiful. Okay. So here we go. Error detected. Rebuilding memory. I still have no idea if these are the map coordinates that you actually download from the terminals throughout the game. I would hope that they would be. All right, so like I mentioned, great way to open the game if it mattered, which it doesn't. Okay, and I'll explain why in a second. Starts off, the emotion I would say is it's kind of like wonderment, you know. As I said, great music, great sound. It conveys that well. You're like, oh, what's going on? Okay, and then it's like it stops abruptly. Error detected. Reboot stuff. Pastes this up there for you to read, and then gives you a continue with boot option. And like I said, that would be great if it mattered, but it doesn't. And the reason it doesn't is because we are not the main character. There's a couple ways to start your story. I mean, more than just a couple. There's tons of ways, but at least for me, the ones I could generally think of are JRPGs typically start with the Sleepy Village opening, right? You wake up, you walk around, you do some basic quests. Whoa, excuse me. You know, oh hey, go pick up the dress for my wedding today. Go do this, go do that. Teaches you a little bit about the game system. It's like a little tutorial area, but also kind of establishes you in the world. It's your intro. It's your world building, your exposition, right? But it also gets you emotionally invested in your main character. And then usually it ends with some sort of crisis. JRPGs, typically your village is destroyed, thus starting you on your journey. You can also do the beginning where you start in the middle of the action. Not necessarily like a crisis, but all of a sudden you're right in the middle of battle. Star Wars, the movie, the first one, the original, did both, actually. You started with Luke on his planet, and you saw him in his daily life, and you kind of established the world, and you learned about how he was dissatisfied with his life, and then there was the crisis. At the same time, there was the rebel ship that got overtaken by the Imperial Star Destroyer and Darth Vader. There's a lot of action, and then the droids escaped. So they had some sort of in the action crisis thing. You know, those two storylines intertwined, and then the story continues. And I tried to think about what kind of opening this is, right? Because what it seems like they're trying to do is the mystery opening, like kind of like when you start a game and they're like, this is, you know, the main, you know, I don't know, the character is dying or getting the crap kicked out of them. They're like, how did I end up here? Let me go back. You know, Fight Club. Fight Club starts off, Edward Norton's character has a gun in his mouth and he's like, let me start at the beginning, right? Because they start, the opening of the movie is actually the end of the movie, and the whole movie is how we got here. This isn't that. This is after the crisis. This is, let me just read it for you. Recovering last known log recovered, dated 2189, user AN sensorium disabled. There isn't any time left, and there's glitches because they want to convey that there's like a memory error or something. This is going to be more restrictive than you're used to, but you're resourceful. I know you. I'm sorry, Oki, but I can't let them find you. I can't lose everything we achieved here. Something, something, something. And I'm pretty sure this is Mine. And this might be sister. User disconnected. I don't know. It actually doesn't make sense knowing what I know about the story. But whatever, right? So what they're doing is basically saying, we're starting at the beginning. This is like it's like the JRPG thing. You coming into my lap, Meanie? Nope, you're going somewhere else. Going into your heated cat bed? All right, go for it. This is basically them, and this is like I said, this is my interpretation. You guys are welcome to, if you have comments or disagree with anything I've said, let me know. Let me totally know. I want to see what other people think about this. Like I said, I seem to be in the minority, but I feel like maybe I'm not. Even though I was a petty jerk when I was going through the gameplay, I don't really, I still think that I'm right about at least my breakdown and my analysis. So this is basically starting after the village is destroyed. And that's one of the big problems with this game is this game, they say show don't tell. That's kind of the thing, is like, show don't tell. You need to show people, don't just straight up tell them, because then they don't form the bond, they don't figure it out from themselves. They don't internalize it if you just tell them. And that's the challenge. How the heck do you do that in a game that is, it's like a book. It's almost completely all text. I don't know. Writers do it all the time, though. So, I mean, I would say the writer needs to figure that out. But they're basically saying, oh yeah, we skipped all that village building and world building. We've, and your sleepy anime village in your JRPG, that's destroyed. And this is now. Oh yeah, your village is destroyed. Feel sad about that. And you're just like, I don't. I can't feel sad about anything that something that I never experienced or grew to know. You know, there's no sense of loss when I didn't lose anything. So, that's an issue. One of several. But as this is, you know, well, let's keep going. This is, just I guess real fast. I think this is supposed to be the mystery, The problem with the mystery is this is basically also the solution to the mystery. I guess I'm not gonna do spoilers. But the explanation, or it's basically this clarified, and it's about the same amount of text in addition. So imagine just another one of these where they basically tell you what happened. Sort of. You know, it's like 5 sentences, maybe. And they're like, this happened. And you're like, oh, okay. Now feel bad about that. And you're like, well, I don't. So let's okay, so let's start the game proper, and then this is where my huge issue comes up. So think about this stuff. Here's the text advancing. We're gonna pause. We're gonna go back through. We're gonna go back through the message log once we get to the end of this. So, hello, is someone there? This is Dr. Ellery Voss. I urgently need all systems of this suit activating. You know, and this was a planned thing. The devs consider this to be subtitles, which is, I mean, yeah, I guess that's whatever. I've been locked out. I'm 20 meters below the surface here. I say again, Dr. Ellery Voss, can any operator personas on this suit please respond? I will say yes. I don't actually remember what these do. My last playthrough, I've played through basically twice. My most recent playthrough, when I went through the whole thing, I did not respond to her at all. And it changed like one line at the end, as far as I could tell. And it feeds into the character, which... So I'll say yes. All right, good. Operator, activate all systems. Pilot authorization granted. Scan and topography readouts coming through, looking good. Okay, utilities available. Let's see. Sampling, sample storage, terminal, and retrieval seem to be installed. Power panel is activating. Plenty of juice. You can also click on this and it'll just forward the text. Oxygen panel is up. Rebreather functioning. I am off reserve oxygen now. So we were on reserve oxygen. There was a hard time limit before this. Okay. Seeing the heading panel coming online. Excellent. Notice... So, before... Okay, anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, good. The dive panel is active. Current reading of 20 meters. Now, these are your actual controls, but they are not enabled at this point. You don't seem to know what you're doing. You're not an operator, are you? I'm going to say no, because I've never said no before. Then what are you? Why are you installed to this suit? Help me out here. I guess I should try and be... I should try and be more neutral. I don't want to give her emotion that maybe the devs did not intend, but that's about how you properly convey the information. I knew there was something strange about the suit when I got inside. It looks decades old. Look, we don't have time for this, so whatever program or system you are, I need you to work with me. You seem to respond to voice commands, so that's a start. We need to head north. I'll explain once we get going, but right now I'm locked out of half the systems of this suit. Someone, somehow, has rewritten the permissions to only respond to internal messaging. That means you. So I'm going to need you to take control. Let's get moving. Take me north into the reef. Please. I don't know why my voice is so dry. I guess it's all the talking. So, let's go back through that. Okay, so first off, what do we know so far? What do we know so far? Okay. Operator, activate all systems. Pilot authorization granted. Notice how her speech changes, first off, right? Hello, is someone there? This is Dr. Ellery Voss. It's like you're talking to an actual person. And then as soon as I say, yes, I'm an operator, she starts talking as an operator being like Siri or Alexa, like a digital assistant, basically. Now, also the suit is about 30 years old. She says it looks decades old. So she has no idea what kind of phones, how did Siri work 30 years ago? We had rotary telephones 30 years ago. You know, the one, two, three. We didn't have to do the whole like pick the thing off the hook and then turn the crank to charge the phone. We didn't have to do that, but 30 years ago, yeah, it was the rotary telephones. There were no digital assistants. So, but I do. So credit where credit's due. This is a great piece right here. This change is good. Woo, excuse me. Beer burps. However, she already knew that internal messaging, that commands for the suit were rewritten to only respond to internal messaging, i.e. whatever programs are installed on the suit. So why she's talking to us? How do you talk to your car, by the way? When you're like late for work or in some sort of stressful situation and the engine's not turning over, are you like, hello, car, is anyone there? My name is so-and-so. She's talking like she's talking to somebody on the radio. And also as if she's not in any danger, which she is. But that's the thing, it doesn't convey that she's in any sort of danger, right? We can also, if we're looking at character here, we can also assume that maybe she's not aware of the danger that she's in. And I know almost nothing about diving, but I've watched a couple of these diving things, and it's like if you're trapped, maybe she's trapped inside the suit. You know, if it only responds to internal messaging, is she locked in there? Can she get out? If she runs out of oxygen, can she even open the thing and maybe attempt to swim to the surface? I don't know. Does she know? So she doesn't know how much danger she's in. She also apparently didn't test the stuff. She didn't test her equipment. If I'm going into space or underwater, you probably want to test it to make sure there's actually oxygen in the air tank and not water or some kind of poisonous gas, right? Something. Who knows? Make sure it's sealed properly so when you go underwater, it's all of a sudden it's not leaking, you know? But I do, you know, think that's a good little change. It's a neat detail that I didn't know before. It's still not good. All right, then you scroll down. You're not an operator, are you? If you say yes, she's like, I don't believe you. She becomes very antagonistic right away. And then also, why are you installed in the suit? Something strange about the suit when I got inside. I need you to work with me. We need to head north. Again, it's like it's a grudging partnership, and maybe they were planning on doing something like maybe she has an arc, some kind of character change or whatever, but they don't even develop her as a character. If anything, they basically established that she's, you know, reckless, entitled, narcissistic, emotional, hysterical, whatever. Yeah, it's really fascinating. It's actually pretty fascinating. Right. So I'm going to need you to take control. Let's get moving. Take me north into the reef. If your car, if you're driving on the freeway and all of a sudden your car stops responding. And then all of a sudden it pulls over to the side. What do? You figure out a response to voice commands. Maybe. It responds to suggestions. Are you going to be like, yeah, get back on that highway at 80 miles an hour? I don't know about you. I wouldn't. I'd be like, holy crap, I don't want to die. Let's go back to base. Or in this game, there's like drones. Drones drop. That's how you get around in this game, between the different map areas and get back to the base or out to the dive locations. A drone, I think. I know drones pick you up. I don't know if they drop you off. I assume so. I'd be like, hey, drone, pick me up now. Right, but again, that's the problem with testing the stuff. There's basically this other thing, like, you don't have control of this thing in a potentially lethal situation. Are you going to be like, it's fine, totally fine? I mean, I wouldn't. But maybe that's her character. You know, the other thing is, if you read the store page, it talks about her, it talks about the Great Mystery. You know, you solve the mystery and form a bond and become closer together. So she's supposed to be likable. And yet, especially going through the ignore option, where you just ignore and you never respond, and she presumably doesn't even know that you're sentient. Right? She just assumes maybe... I mean, she doesn't know anything. There's no change, really. I'm just trying to think, like, what would she be thinking? And maybe she'd be thinking that you're some sort of experimental Siri or Alexa or something like that. So you kind of, you respond, you do what she says, but she doesn't know specifically how. And yet, if you ignore her the entire time, towards the end, she basically freaks out and accuses you of using her. And how am I supposed to trust you? Have you been using me this whole time? It's like, first of all, projection, but secondly, this is a person that's supposed to be likable. And I mean, they're actually pretty legit for a female character. They're pretty accurately written, I would say. But if this is a person that's supposed to be likable, given how entitled and narcissistic and frankly unlikable they are, I would actually have serious questions about the health of the developer or the writer's relationships. I mean, I know it's, like I said, I'm reading into this stuff, but it's like, if you wrote this person and they're supposed to be likable, but they're toxic. That shows me that your perspective on healthy relationships is skewed. So, I mean, I've been doing all the talking, because you guys, I mean, this is a one-way form of communication, unfortunately, similar to this, I suppose. But is this how you would talk to Alexa? Is this, or Siri, whatever? Most people have Apple phones, you know. It's like, it's your job as the writer, developer, whatever, to set the parameters of the world, especially if it's like, oh, this is an AI. It's like, well, we don't actually have AI yet, not real AI. We have these algorithms that we call AI. We have digital assistants like Siri and Alexa. But we kind of need to know, like, how is this different? And they don't really talk about that. That's kind of the thing. And I've mentioned before, like that beginning, that intro, that is beautiful, frankly, but it doesn't work because it affects our character. And we're not even a silent protagonist. We're like the silent sidekick, maybe. Because our mystery doesn't even match. So Ellery Voss is looking for someone who is doing something else, and what they're doing involves something else, and that thing involves something, and then there's some other plot that encompasses that, and then so we're partially in that fifth tier plot. So in like movies and TV shows, there's like A and B plots, right? There's the main overarching plot, and then there's like the little B plots involving the characters or whatever. I don't know. I'm not in that. I don't know. I just know what I've heard people discussing that have experience in the industries. Right? It's like the level of importance of the plot threads, right? So we're in like tier 5. Because the tier 5 thing where it's like this person is involved with this, who's involved with this, who's involved with this, who's involved with this, who's involved with that, and we're involved with that last one. So it's like we're on the bottom rung, and we're a silent member of that tier of story. So it's like it doesn't matter. And then the explanation is like, oh, this is like in the beginning, it's like, oh, this is more restrictive than you're used to. It's like, let me clarify that one statement. And that's it. There you go. And you're like, well, okay, but that just brings up more questions. Because how did we even get to where we were? Anyway, that's basically it. I realize I've talked for a fair amount of time. That's kind of my thing. But I would say, first off, I would not recommend this game. If you're interested in analyzing terrible writing, I mean, like I said, there's so much that is done well, but the story is what matters. The story is what matters. It's where all the emotional impact is, and they screw that up. And so if you're interested in seeing that, then sure, I'd recommend it. But aside from that, I mean, I'm curious what you guys think. Like, you know, like I said, I overanalyze and I look into all this stuff maybe too deeply, but that's the role of the director, the developer, whatever. Their goal should be to get their vision. First off, they have to define their vision. And that's why I ask all these questions. It's like, is this person talking like they're in danger? Is this person making decisions that someone in their situation should be making? Because that's how you get, I mean, you're right. It's like if you've ever you've watched a horror movie and the character makes a dumb decision and you're like, why are you doing that? That's stupid. That's what this character does throughout the entire game. Makes dumb decisions and you're like, why? It just separates us as a character. It separates, like, because the drama comes from us, the player, rooting for the characters. We want them to succeed. But to want them to succeed, you have to like them. And I don't think she's likable. But that said, that's my opinion. If you watch my playthrough, I feel like I've fairly well backed it up, even though I'm sassy and fairly intoxicated and bitter the whole time. But I like to think that I'm backing it up. But I am curious about what you guys think. Do you have any writing experience? Actually, that doesn't matter. What do you guys think about what this is? Is there... I'm really curious. Any thoughts you guys have, please let me know. I do read all the comments. I do try and respond to all of them. But good, bad, or indifferent, let me hear them. Tell me I'm a jerk if you want. That's fine, too. Just be advised, YouTube seems to have, like, at least for me, something like a 40% memory hole rate, where it'll tell me there's comments, but I can't see them. I don't know. I don't know what that means. So if I don't respond to your comment, that's why. In a few days. I usually respond in a couple days. But seriously, if you guys have made it this far, thank you guys so much for your time and attention. I really do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think. If you liked it, give me a like. If you disliked it, give me a dislike. Either is fine, honestly. Just I'm honestly more interested in the comments. You know, the like or dislike is like, but if you tell me what you think, that's what I'm really interested in. That's basically it. I keep looking down at the time. It's like, man, I was hoping this was going to be like a 10-minute video, but I know myself and I knew it was going to be probably half an hour, so. But anyway, that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much. Leave a comment, please, and I hope to see you guys next time. Till then, guys, take care.